In Shahid Bhagat Singh's village, Bhagwant Maan was sworn in as the new Punjab Chief Minister today. Maan was cheered on by a sea of Basanti pagdis and scarves, and the crowd was cheering for the Aam Aadmi Party and hoping for a new Punjab. Delhi's Chief Minister and top AAP leaders were in attendance, all wearing yellow turbans. The message was clear. AAP thinks this is the beginning of a revolution inspired by the original revolutionary Shahid Bhagat Singh. In a moment from now, we'll look at whether AAP can expand nationally and become the national replacement for the Congress party. But before that, here's our lead story.
If a phrase could describe Bhagwant Maan being sworn in as the Chief Minister of Punjab, that would be it. From the young to the old, there was a sea of yellow and the sound of revolution. The setting, Bhagat Singh's village, and the symbolism reclaiming his legacy. It was also very personal. Bhagwant Maan's children Seerat and Dilshan had specially flown in from the United States to attend the ceremony. The kids live with their mother, Maan's ex-wife, Inderpreet. The man of the moment, Bhagwant Maan, arrived waving on stage. Also present were Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia and Raghav Chadha, all sporting Bhagat Singh-style Basanti turbans. Chief Minister Bhagwant Maan was sworn in close to 1:30 p.m.
मैं भगवंत मान ईश्वर दी सौं चुकदा हां कि मैं कानून द्वारा स्थापित भारत दे संविधान दे प्रति सच्ची श्रद्धा ते निष्ठा रखांगा.
The comedian turned politician relied on humor and humility during his speech. Quoting Bhagat Singh, Maan pledged to make Punjab start the journey to progress and attack the erstwhile Congress government.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ शहीद आजम भगत सिंह का एक शेर, इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है, क्यों ना इस बार वतन की सरजमी को महबूब बना लिया जाए. देश की मिट्टी नू प्यार करो. बहुत कर्मां वाली मिट्टी है, बहुत उपजाऊ मिट्टी है. खेती, व्यापार, करप्शन, स्कूल, हस्पताल, बहुत तानी उलझी पई है. जे किते ओदा एक सिरा लभ जे इधरले पासों ਉਹ ਅੱਧੇ ਸਕਿੰਟ 'ਚ ਖੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ. ਆਪਾਂ ਇਸ ਉਲਝੀ ਹੋਈ ਤਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਸਿਰਾ ਲੱਭਾਂਗੇ, ਸਹੀ ਵਾਲਾ ਸਿਰਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ. ਜਿੰਨਾ ਹੱਥਾਂ 'ਚ ਆਇਆ 70 ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਨੂੰ ਭੱਜੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੁਲਕ ਹੀ ਠੀਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ. ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੁਲਕ ਠੀਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਨਹੀਂ ਬਗਾਨੇ ਦਰਾਂ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੇ ਧੱਕੇ ਖਾਣੇ. ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਹੀਦ.
He ended his speech with a war cry for Inqilab.
Inqilab! Inqilab!
Maan's coronation marks the first step in Kejriwal's ambitious mission to go national.
दिल्ली के मॉडल की पहुंच आज पंजाब में आई है. बेहतर शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, बिजली, पानी, केजरीवाल जी की गारंटी, उसको पंजाब ने अपनाया है. भगवंत मान की ईमानदारी पर लोगों ने भरोसा जताया है.
Hours after being sworn in, Bhagwant Maan took charge as Chief Minister of Punjab under the watchful gaze of Shahid-e-Azam Bhagat Singh and the father of the Indian Constitution, B.R. Ambedkar. With Preeti Chaudhary, Bureau Report, India Today.
Can the Aam Aadmi Party become the national alternative to the Congress party, which seems to be in free fall with absolutely no sign at this moment at least of a revival? Because remember, in that big CWC meeting, they said that Sonia Gandhi must continue, clearly not realizing and recognizing where the problems lie and so far doing nothing to try and fix it. AAP seems to be hungry. They seem to be on the ascendant. They've won twice over in Delhi. They won big in Punjab and have the ambition and the appetite to spread their wings further. Is this a castle in the sky, or can this be the new reality? Joining me on this broadcast, I want to welcome first Ashish Kaitan. He is here in his capacity as a political analyst, but has been a member of the Aam Aadmi Party and therefore knows its strengths and weaknesses from the inside. We've got with us, representing the Aam Aadmi Party on this broadcast, Reena Gupta. Representing the Congress, which seems to be in free fall at this moment, is Charan Singh Sapra. We've got with us on this broadcast, representing the BJP, on how they think of AAP as a challenger to the Congress and what AAP versus BJP means in the context of how easy it is to beat the Congress. We've got Syed Zafar Islam, Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha. spokesperson of the BJP. We've got Sanjay Jha joins us. He's been on the inside in the Congress, now on the outside, understands the opposition anti-BJP space well. Harmeet Shah Singh understands the ins and outs of Punjab. He's our senior editor at India Today Television. So welcome to all our guests. I want to go across to Reena Gupta first. For her to explain from an AAP perspective why this idea of AAP being the natural and national alternative to the Congress is something that you think is not just rhetoric but could potentially be the new reality, and what kind of time frames have you set in mind to actually make this come true? Reena, can you hear me, ma'am? Okay, give me a moment. I'll try and fix that connection with Reena Gupta in just a moment. Let me ask Ashish Khaitan in the meanwhile, as somebody who's been on the inside in the AAP, had his differences, decided to walk out, was once a bright AAP star, now outside the AAP firmament. What's your assessment of this AAP declaration that they believe they can be the national alternative to the Congress? Can this happen? If so, why? If not, why? Ashish.
Yeah, first of all, I decided to walk out because I wanted to pursue law as a career, so there were no internal differences. But coming to your important question, which is that is Congress replaceable now, and whether AAP is in our best position to replace Congress. So in terms of electoral politics and election victories or defeats, Congress is perhaps at its lowest point right now. But I would not see Congress just as an entity which fights elections. I would see Congress as a larger idea, the idea which has been around for 150 years, and the idea which is at the very core of the idea of India, which is the idea of constitutional politics, politics of constitutional democracy, the idea of deepening fundamental rights and civil liberties, and while simultaneously pursuing social revolution, and at the same time preserving social national unity and integrity. So I would say Congress is that idea. Whether that idea is replaceable, the answer is no. Whether any other party can occupy that space of constitutional democracy, that party that absolutely believes in constitutional democracy, is willing to enfranchise and empower the most depressed and disadvantaged sections, whether any other party can occupy that space, yes, that space perhaps has opened up, and whether AAP can occupy some or most of its space is a question that is still open, and the jury will still be out because it is early days right now.
Sure, it is early days. The jury is indeed out. Reena Gupta, if you can hear me, your assessment of why you believe that this claim that AAP can be the national and natural replacement to the Congress is not just a castle in the sky, but something that you believe you can make happen, and what kind of time frames do you have in mind to turn this rhetoric into reality?
So Rahul, right now, the priority for us is deliver on all the promises that we've made in Punjab. Make sure that in a time frame, in a time-bound manner, we deliver on all these promises in Punjab. That's point number one. Point number two, Rahul, it is for the people of the country to choose who's going to be the chief minister and who's going to be the prime minister of the country. As far as Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, what we are saying is that the good model of governance that we've shown in Delhi, Kaam ki Rajniti, Shiksha ki Rajniti, Swasth ki Rajniti, this is the model that we want to take to the rest of the country. Now, wherever people see Aam Aadmi Party, they see a good Sangathan, they see us as an alternative, people will vote for Aam Aadmi Party. And if you see in the recent municipal elections in Gujarat as well, Rahul, in Surat and in Ahmedabad, Aam Aadmi Party got very good results. We got 20 to 30% vote share in both of these municipalities. So wherever, the people are ready to look for a good alternative, clean politics, clean governance, and they are tired of the traditional politics like you saw in Punjab. The Akalis and the Congressis had ruled Punjab for 50 years. But, there were all of these scams, Reta scam, drug problem, all of these problems, and people were realizing that the parties kept changing. 5 saal main khao, 5 saal tum khao. But the condition on the ground for the common people was not changing. And that is the reason why they decided to give Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal a chance. So, Rahul, this is our message that the dream of Baba Sahib and the dream of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, we want to make that dream realized in the
Charan
whole
Singh
country.
Sapra,
It might take us longer.
it's a real fall from grace for the Congress, far from being the principal challenger to the BJP. That battle, most people think the Congress can't fight, at least not in its current avatar. The question that's now being asked is the Congress strong enough to take on AAP, or will AAP replace the Congress also? Will whatever little space the Congress has left be taken over by the Aam Aadmi Party? It just shows how the tide has turned from the Congress, where you're not even seen as being the national, natural alternative to the BJP. Now you've got people like Kejriwal, like Mamata Banerjee gunning for you.
See, Rahul, in democracy, Aam Aadmi Party or in fact any other party has all the right to give such a statement. But I feel in the days to come, it may not be, it might not be neither natural or national, alternate for Congress party. Let me give you some examples. In these 5 state elections itself, they were 0 in Uttarakhand and probably they got 2 seats in Goa. And rightly, I would like to also say that Aam Aadmi Party is eyeing at what you are saying, that they want to become an alternate to Congress. Why I am saying this? Because if you see the results of Uttarakhand, I have studied the results of Uttarakhand constituency-wise, even Goa, which is the adjoining state to Mumbai where I live. And in these results, what I have seen, and even in the campaign of Aam Aadmi Party, they have been fighting against Congress. They have not fought against BJP, which was the ruling party in both the states. Even in their campaign, as well as if you see the constituency wise, we have seen that Aam Aadmi Party has taken away the votes of Congress party and they have not at all damaged the BJP. So I feel their inclination is towards that only, that they want to become a national alternate in 2024. But it won't happen because, as I would like to say that we are already ruling 2 states. We are having leader of opposition in 10 states, and we have cadre all across the country, which probably Aam Aadmi Party is not having now. So it is a long way they have to go. And Congress, like Mr. Khetan said, 137-year-old party, it is there in the DNA of every Indian, and Congress party is not going to sit idle. We are re-strategizing the things. The Congress working committee has met. The leaders at the state levels have been asked to formulate the strategies, to give the reports that how we have lost each constituency. Constituency-wise report is coming. We are going into micro restructuring thing, and also the Congress elections are coming. The internal membership drive is on. Let me tell you, in 27 states and 3 regional Congress committees, till today, new membership drive has started, and nearly 1 crore people have registered themselves as member. And till 31st March it will go on, and probably we might have more number of members in that. So I feel the total restructuring of Congress party is coming within 3-4 months, and that will definitely energize the Congress party.
Well, you can hope for it as a member of the Congress, but so far the people who are watching at this time haven't seen any sign that the Congress is serious about reform or restructuring. Sanjay Jha, as somebody who loves the idea of the Congress and has been part of the Congress, how seriously do you think this claim by the Aam Aadmi Party ought to be taken, that AAP could be in some time to come? Yes, they're not national, but the Congress is a shrinking force, the AAP is a growing force, that in time to come, AAP could be the new Congress.
Well, Rahul, first and foremost, AAP needs to be congratulated for an extraordinary performance. I've been critical of AAP for multiple reasons, but, you have to hand it to them that, they have grit in them. I think the word grit is one of the most powerful ingredients in life and in politics. They were there, actually did well in the last assembly elections. Perhaps they somewhere down the line bungled in the end, but eventually they have succeeded. And your question is valid because, my friend Charanjit is right in being, sanguine about how the Congress can fight back. We all know the Congress can fight back. And I think Ashish made the valid point that the Congress encapsulates the philosophy of this great country. However, the truth is, as a political organization whose main purpose is to win elections, to propagate your ideology, and to implement your programs for the common people, the Congress is completely, at the moment, probably reached a dead end. So, that can the Congress revive? Absolutely. Can the Congress bounce back? Of course, because in politics, Rahul, you know it better than me, there are no permanent winners, there are no permanent losers. However, the fact needs to be stated today that I do believe that people who don't like the BJP or who understand that Mr. Modi's rhetoric and all the dramatics, etc., are basically high on style and low on substance, are looking for an alternative. I don't want to give you too many anecdotes, but I have people here in Mumbai, which, by the way, I think is a bustling, cosmopolitan mind of India, who tell me that they vote for BJP because they feel the Congress doesn't inspire the confidence it once did. And today, I do believe that many people will say, well, if Arvind Kejriwal has managed to create a model that has worked in Delhi and probably might work in Punjab, then why not give the man a chance? I do feel that India at the moment, and I'm speaking very dispassionately, okay? I'm a supporter of the Congress. I will fight for the Congress. But I need to say it upfront here on your show. And this is Rahul Gandhi's missed opportunity. The people of India are looking for that Emmanuel Macron kind of leader. Macron came from nowhere. He is not part of any mainstream party. And suddenly he's going to win a re-election to France in all opinion. What does it tell you? It tells you that people want hope. They want to see somebody inspiring. They want someone who can be even a disruptor as long as they have a constructive agenda for the country. So I think the ball is up in the air. The Congress has a fight on hand. If the Congress doesn't get its act together, AAP will be a natural successor to that role. And that is the way political life is normally played out in any democracy.
Syed Zafar Islam, from the BJP's perspective, would you concede that the current avatar of the Aam Aadmi Party is tougher for the BJP to fight than the current avatar of the Congress? The Congress is like a listless boxer. You can punch them, you can knock them out. AAP seems to, wherever it's fought, especially in Delhi, get under your skin. And even in Delhi, not just did they get re-elected, opinion polls suggest that if there's an election that happens today, AAP could still potentially do well.
Well, Rahul, on a pan-India basis, we have absolutely no opposition from one party. There are several parties in each state. AAP happens to be one of them in Delhi and now in Punjab. Likewise, Congress in some states. But there is no one party which can say that they have a pan-India presence and then they can act as a formidable opposition to Bharatiya Janata Party in 2024. Away from that, yes, we will fight election against all these parties. In Uttar Pradesh, we fought recently with against Samajwadi Party. In some other states, some other political party would be, but there is no one party which, unlike in the past, where Congress used to be there everywhere, but they are conceding a space to other parties, like in Bihar and in Punjab and in Uttar Pradesh, they have conceded to those regional parties, RJD and Samajwadi Party and Baspa, and in Punjab now is AAP. But on a pan-India basis, it is Bharatiya Janata Party.
Oh, sure, but I'm not even making that point. The fact that the BJP is here, the BJP is the primary pole of Indian politics and is likely to be that way for several years to come, I don't think now can be contested. The question is, who against the BJP? Harmeet, you track the Aam Aadmi Party. Explain how significant this opportunity is, because remember, Delhi is a half state. So what Kejriwal does here is limited by the powers he doesn't have. Punjab is a full state. And if Bhagwant Mann and his cabinet can deliver that model of reforming a state like Punjab, which has massive problems in terms of agriculture, problems of indebtedness, problems of lack of infrastructure and industry, problems of drug addiction, problems of people migrating abroad. If he can try and fix some of these problems, create an AAP model, then that is an idea that could percolate to other parts of the country.
Yes, absolutely. I think there is a lot of opportunity at hand. And if you see today's event, he was, to be fair to him, he was generic about Punjab in the sense that there was no cabinet formed yet and he couldn't have made any grand announcement. But if you see the overall imagery at Khattar Kala, the ancestral village of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, there the imagery...
Give us a moment, we'll fix that audio line with Harmeet and then continue this conversation with him. The fact is that if you look at the Aam Aadmi Party, the total number of MLAs they have as of 2022 is 156. The Congress has 762. The BJP has 1339. So the Congress still has manifold the MLAs that the AAP does, and therefore, Reena, what Punjab shows, it took about 8 years to win Punjab, that this could be a very long journey. Even if the AAP were to grow, this could be an incremental, slow process. Is there any one particular state that you've identified where you think the ground is most fertile for AAP to extend its presence in next?
So Rahul, I don't disagree with you that it is not going to be a long journey. It is going to be a long journey. But as we have shown, we are consistent. We are a bunch of hardworking volunteers. We will continue to work for the party. We will continue to take the message. Right now, we are going to contest the upcoming elections in Himachal Pradesh and in Gujarat. Those are the two focus areas for the party for now. And let us see how we do in these states. And also, the states where we contested last time around, Uttarakhand, UP, we will continue to build our Sangathan in those states. And I'm very sure that in the next 5 years, we will do very well in Uttarakhand, UP, and in Goa, where the party has made its presence felt, but this time probably we could not, the message did not go out to enough people. We didn't have a very strong Sangathan in these states. But in the next 5 years, we hope to build on these states and also go to Himachal Pradesh and Gujarat with the same message of good governance, good politics, and schools and Bijli, Pani, Sadak, everything that we've been talking about in Delhi and in Punjab.
Ashish, the Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab was able to build the idea of a Delhi model. As somebody who stays in Delhi, I realize several of the challenges that Delhi's governance faces, and part of it is because AAP doesn't have full power. But they were able to build that idea. Of all the states in India, where do you think AAP could progress to most naturally? Because both in Uttarakhand and in Goa, AAP tried its hands but failed. We're talking about AAP in positive light because they won Punjab, but elsewhere where they tried, both Goa and Uttarakhand, they didn't do well.
Well, so first of all, this model of governance, which is Delhi model of governance, or earlier we used to talk about the Gujarat model of governance. While for the purpose of rhetoric, it is good to talk about a particular state as a model of governance, but as you rightly pointed out, each state has its own dynamics, has its unique and peculiar problems. Punjab has its own peculiar problems. To what extent that model has to be readjusted, only time will tell, and only AAP will know as it progresses with its governance. The second thing, I would like to put this in context, Rahul, for the viewers, is that both Delhi and in Punjab, BJP has historically been a marginal political player. Historically in Delhi, BJP was a very, very marginal player since independence. And so in Punjab, it was a very junior partner to a local formidable force, which was Akali Dal. So what AAP has done both in Delhi and in Punjab, it has displaced Congress in Delhi and displaced Akali Dal, and to some extent Congress in Punjab. And Congress, by the way, is the second largest party in Punjab, even in this election. So whether AAP can replace or displace where BJP is firmly rooted, like Gujarat, like central India, Madhya Pradesh, like Uttar Pradesh, where this idea of the BJP model of not of governance alone, but model of politics, because BJP represents a hyper-nationalistic, a majoritarian, authoritarian form of both politics as well as governance, because it also reflects in their governance. They don't give tickets to any Muslim candidates. They completely marginalize certain sections of the population. So whether that
you make a very important point, and I want Sanjay Jha to respond to the point that Ashish Khaitan makes.
That is something that
it's one thing to knock down the BJP where it's weak in Delhi and in Punjab. Completely different to take on, say, the BJP in a state like Gujarat, in a state like Himachal Pradesh, in a state like Madhya Pradesh, where you actually got the BJP strong. Reena Gupta, do you want to respond to your former colleague?
Rahul, if you see in Delhi, BJP has been ruling MCD for 15 years, and their internal surveys have told them that they're going to be routed out of MCD, and that is the reason why they've postponed the MCD elections in Delhi. So even in Delhi, BJP has been there in MCD, but we are routing out BJP out of MCD as well. Rahul, and all of the other states that I'm talking about, even in those states, this Gujarat model of governance, what is the Gujarat model of governance? You look at any of the indicators, human development indicators, whether it's health, whether it's education, all of those indicators, Gujarat does actually really poorly. So it's only Gujarat model is that only a certain section of the society is becoming richer and richer, whereas the poor and the weaker and the marginalized are getting poorer and poorer. So is this the model that we want to want India to be? We want India to be a country where everybody is prosperous, and that is the model that Aam Aadmi Party is taking to other states. That's the model we are taking to Gujarat as well. That सबका साथ सबका विकास सिर्फ कहने के लिए नहीं होता है, ग्राउंड पे भी सबका साथ सबका विकास होना चाहिए. In UP
the
and in
difference,
Uttarakhand,
Syed Zafar Islam, between attacking the Congress and attacking AAP is that the Congress is a party with a lot of past baggage. You can attack them for Bofors, you can attack them for 62, you can attack them for communal riots. AAP, because it's younger and fresher, doesn't carry the same baggage and therefore is tougher to push back than the Congress is on a national basis, and they think that they will in time to come be able to give a run for your money even in Hindi heartland states?
Well, in Uttar Pradesh, in Uttarakhand, just see their performance. They have lost deposit. They fought election in 377 seats. On 377 seats in Uttar Pradesh, they have lost deposit in 370 constituencies. Because they have always misled people in Delhi, and they have also adopted the same approach in Punjab. They will get exposed. Then and today now the organization was only limited to Delhi. It was easy for Mr. Kejriwal to run. Now there is another power center in Punjab, and which is more formidable than what he is enjoying in Delhi. You will see going forward it will be very difficult for him to stay in a position where he is enjoying currently. There will too many people will start challenging him. As far as the voters' preference, it is so evident wherever BJP is there and AAP is there, with the exception of Delhi, you have seen that every voter have preferred BJP over AAP. And
in the Lok Sabha elections, but in the assembly elections, it was different. That's in the Lok Sabha elections, not in the assembly election.
No, even in assembly.
Not really. In the assembly election, the Aam Aadmi Party beat the...
No, in Delhi, I said, in assembly election, only with the exception of...
Okay, Sanjay Jha, no, Ashish Khaitan makes an important point, specifically to do with Delhi and to do with Punjab, that AAP was able to do well because their principal challenger was the Congress. Gujarat is different, Madhya Pradesh is different, Himachal, Uttarakhand are different, because there the principal challenger is the BJP, and where you're taking on the BJP, it's not as easy to grow as it is to grow when you can take on a weak Congress.
Well, let me tell you that there's a fact there that Ashish has uttered, because in that case, it becomes a triangular contest, and there invariably is going to be tougher for a new entrant, because even if the Congress has diminished, it manages to hold on to a certain threshold of minimum, vote share. The BJP, and I think Syed needs to be congratulated because his party is so, formidable as a machine. They are already at work in Gujarat and probably even at Himachal. So I agree with Ashish that for AAP to actually increase its footprint beyond small states is not going to be an easy one. Even in Himachal, it's at the moment a bipolar contest between Congress and the BJP. So if AAP comes in, it could destroy the Congress, but it may not be able to upset the BJP. I'll be very frank on your show. In internal conversations, despite being suspended, I have told this to the Congress leaders whom I know very well, and some of them hold very powerful positions. Do not take your eyes off the Aam Aadmi Party. You're focusing too much on Narendra Modi and the BJP. But remember from the Delhi experience, Delhi, entire vote of the Congress has been transported to AAP. And in Punjab, if Aam Aadmi Party succeeds in creating a governance model that keeps people glued to it, the Congress has to really worry about the small states where it is at the moment in a stronger position where AAP could actually give it a real
there's a G23 dinner happening at Kapil Sibbal's place. I'm told that the likes of Shashi Tharoor, the likes of Manishankar Iyer have also reached there in addition to the usual suspects. Now, Shashi, for example, is someone who has a very active presence in the Congress, a lot of respect as well, but wasn't seen as a member of the disenchanted brigade, which he now seems to be very clearly. The likes of Manish Tiwari have been firing away for a bit. So what's cooking there and what do you see happen next?
Well, Rahul, let me tell you, Sashi has been very much part of the G23. And I want to make this statement here, and I say so with a lot of responsibility. G23 is not renegades. It is very unfortunate that Mr. Kharge and Ashok Gehlot have been calling Kapil Sibal names. Nobody has left the party. Nobody intends to. Okay, but the people are concerned because look at the topic of the debate we're having. Aam Aadmi Party, with due respects, is called a political startup in the larger context of India. I think they're doing remarkably well. With due respects to them, the grand old party is ceding space left, right, and center. And if people don't voice their opinion now, when? There may be nothing left to really talk about. So, Rahul, I do believe that the G23 has a very constructive agenda, but I will also add one point. People are at their wits' end. If they do not see a remarkable transformation in terms of changes or leadership, there will be a more vocal outburst that you will see periodically, which might one day result in a pretty difficult crisis for the Congress.
A possible split as well. Harmeet, explain the challenges that Bhagwant Mann faces in Punjab, challenges he needs to be able to deal with so that the Aam Aadmi Party delivers governance in Punjab, which they can then talk about in states like Himachal, Gujarat and elsewhere.
Well, challenges are immense in Punjab. Punjab is a state in debt, and like other big states, there's a debt of some 300,000 crore, and the budget is just 1,70,000 crore. There are issues about drugs, etc., etc. But today I watched this ceremony, oath ceremony. I think in today's ceremony, words mattered little because the speech was just 7 minutes long, and to be fair to Bhagwant Mann, he didn't have a cabinet in place to be able to make some grand announcement. That said, the overall imagery at Khatkar Kalam, the village of Shaheed Bhagat Singh, was extraordinarily loud. It was high on symbolism. The Aam Aadmi Party from Khatkar Kalam seems to have sent a louder message, not just to the Congress, which we are debating. I think it has also sent a louder message to the BJP outside that here is the Kejriwal brand of patriotism with all that Basanti and Sheikh. That patriotism has launched, interestingly, from a non-Hindutva state, which is Punjab. So that is where,
but it's interesting that they're focusing on nationalism and symbols of patriotism, but in contrast to the saffron that the BJP pushes, you've got the Aam Aadmi Party pushing Shaheed Bhagat Singh's colour of Basanti, this bright yellow, saying we are yellow if they're saffron and far away from green, without saying anything about green, but making that clear that it's actually reasonably close to saffron, but not quite a different flavor of nationalism and patriotism. I want to thank our guests for joining us on this broadcast. And I want to just show our viewers this story about Punjab Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann's oath-taking ceremony, which was at the ancestral village of Bhagat Singh. It seems that after the Congress and the BJP, the AAP has moved very swiftly to try and co-opt Bhagat Singh and the Basanti that's associated with him. By appropriating Bhagat Singh, AAP seems to be placing itself in direct competition with the BJP at the national level, more so when patriotism and ultra-nationalism remain at the centre of Indian politics.
Shaheed-e-Azam Bhagat Singh da ek sher hai. Oh kende इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है, इश्क करना सबका पैदाइशी हक है, क्यों ना इस बार वतन की सरजमी को महबूब बना लिया जाए। देश दी मिट्टी नू प्यार करो, बहुत कर्मां वाली मिट्टी है, बहुत उपजाऊ मिट्टी है कि मैं
Punjab's first non-Congress, non-Akali government in about 55 years has started off on a patriotic note, when nationalism stays as the running theme in national politics. But the Aam Aadmi Party isn't the first to co-opt Bhagat Singh and his legacy. Then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi invoked the martyr from Punjab when the state was in a deep crisis in 1985. 30 years later, Prime Minister Modi visited Shaheed Bhagat Singh's memorial at Hussainiwala in Punjab's Firozpur district. He too wore a Basanti turban.
भगत सिंह, सुखदेव, राजगुरु, उन वीरों की उस महान परंपरा को प्रणाम करने आया। भाइयों बहनों, आज हिंदुस्तान में किसी एक नाम को सुनते ही हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में अबाल वृद्ध सबको चेतना जग जाती है, प्रेरणा मिल जाती है। तो नाम है सरदार भगत सिंह।
After Congress and the BJP, the Aam Aadmi Party has moved swiftly to appropriate Bhagat Singh, and with that appears to be positioning itself as an alternative to the nationalistic front. With Harmeet Shah Singh, Bureau Report, India Today.